Information is the victims, they are Ryan George of Bocage and Peter Larish, also of the same area. Now, one individual suffered multiple gunshots. How many? I am not prepared to say right now. I've not confirmed it, but I heard many gunshots. So we have a stabbing incident. You can't blame the police, okay? You can't blame the police and say that, they could have stopped the stabbing incident. There are some domestic cases that are very much beyond the control of the authorities. And you deal with those issues separately in terms of what we normally refer to as conflict resolution and also tackling various problems at the community level. You have community leaders who must intervene from time to time. They ought to do that. And also the home environment, how we train our children, all those things should be taken into consideration when you're dealing with various our community. People are responsible, can ensure that they de-escalate. You can de-escalate the problem. But what some of us do, we are literally bystanders. We monitor what is happening on the sidelines, and we are somehow hoping that they will escalate, and then we might intervene. On most occasions, it is just too late. On the other hand, there are criminal elements in this country who have been emboldened by what? The lack of action on the part of the authorities, their failure or inability to take the initiative. They don't tell us anything new. As if they have a script and they're reading from that script. And what they tell you? One, that homicide was unfortunate. Two, one crime is one too many. Three, I am not a policeman. Four, we are giving the police the requisite resources to fight crime. But there is more that can be said, and there is more that can be done. Politicians display their creativity and dexterity in the run-up to a general election. And you know that. You know how they come up with all kind of slogans, putting you first. They come across and they come up with all kind of absurd plans, make kind of promises that they know they cannot fulfill. They trick you into voting them into office. So why when they get into power, the seat of power, well, somehow maybe they have expended all their energy and therefore they do the languish in office. They sit in the ivory tower with the AC and they travel, and, they have the propensity to then make excuses as opposed to coming up with solutions to our problems. Right now, law-abiding citizens are at the mercy of criminal elements in our country. If it is not sullying the reputation, saying that the man at the top, the man who fought to get at the top, and thank God that we have social media. Most people have 2 television sets at home. People have 2 telephones or cellular phones, and they go on Facebook, WhatsApp, etc., and they're paying attention. The clips can be easily retrieved. When an individual on the heels of a general election says, I am the most readied individual. And he answers to the question, you're more prepared than John Compton? He says, yes. More prepared than Dr. Kenny Anthony? Yes. More prepared than all of those people who have presided over the affairs of the state before that individual. He comes into office, and 2.5 years later, just about, he cannot get a handle on those issues that he was the most prepared to tackle. Because crime, unemployment, deviant behavior, those are things that we have been grappling with for a very, very long time. Even before Philip J. Pierre entered the political arena. So he was the most prepared individual. He knew what he would be tested on. He knew what he would be facing. There weren't any things that would consider to be, things that are out of the ordinary that he would not anticipate. To put it bluntly, we are at the mercy of the Prime Minister and his administration. Unfortunately, there are some people among us, and I hope we could have a change in attitude and approach and behavior as far as this is concerned, who want to take matters into their own hands. Who would be saying to themselves, the police cannot provide me with the protection that I require, that I need, and by extension, the government cannot put us on a path whereby some kind of
If you are the Minister of National Security, and furthermore, you are the Prime Minister of this country, we expect you to come out and lead. By that I mean not only through articulating what your government policies are, effective policies that will stem the crime wave that we're experiencing. I expect you to come out and make firm, direct, definitive statements to the criminals to let them know that they are not in charge of this country. You are in charge of the country. And that the rest of us are not at the mercy of criminals, and that the criminals do not think that is a free for them.
Do you think that the Prime Minister is doing that, giving that impression?
Yes, he is.
Yes.
Well, how? Why do you say that?
Okay, first of all, instead of rising to his responsibility, he's making excuses. The famous excuse that he was not a police, okay? He knew that he was not a police before he appointed himself as Minister of National Security, so I don't accept that. Next thing is, very often, not just crime, but many serious subjects being raised to the Prime Minister, he laughs, as if it is a joke. You have people dying. Last year, you had 75 St. Lucians who perished as a result of violent crime. That's not a laughing matter. And when he comes out to speak, the approach, the attitude, that is one area where we must unite nationally. One area, well, there may be others, but that is certainly one indisputable area where we have to come together as a nation. To the opposition's credit, okay, they have offered suggestions. They made recommendations and sent to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister came out and made a public statement that he threw it in the bin. I mean, what indication are you giving to the rest of the nation that it is a political thing, that it is about them and us and so on? The criminals do not discriminate. We all are at risk, okay, of crime and criminality. We all are at risk. You may not be the target, but you can become the victim. And so we cannot behave and pretend that it is, well, some of us, and it is the business of the government, is a problem of the government. It's all our problems. And I give credit to the opposition for not just being opposition, using it as an opportunity to criticize and to gain political points, but they recognize that they have a responsibility and a role to play and to rise. The Prime Minister came out and publicly admitted that he does not have the answers, and that he's calling on all citizens of St. Lucia who have suggestions to send it to him. Again, the opposition, despite being treated how they were treated, made a submission and made a public statement that they are prepared to work with the government and the public in the fight against crime. What did the Prime Minister say last week, or earlier this week? Okay? Tell them, well, go and unite themselves, and, you know, I mean, that divisive kind of attitude, arrogant, high-handed attitude, but political approach to it will not help the country, will not serve us well. And from all, like, if some minion in the party makes the statement like that, you can dismiss it, but this is the Prime Minister speaking. And to make matters worse, he's the Minister of National Security. You clearly have not been able to get a lid on and control over the situation. It is out of control. Whatever measures you have taken are ineffective. They are not working. Instead of patting yourself on the back and coming and talk about your measures are working because the first half of the year there were more murders than the second half. For my God, we had 75 murders for the year. The new year has begun, unabated, more murders, 2 every week, at an average of 2 every week. I mean, this is a crisis, a national crisis, you know. This is a national crisis. You cannot treat that lightly. And you don't care where the help comes from, as long as it comes from law-abiding, legitimate people who have the interests of the country at heart. You take it. I don't care what the relationship between Alan Chasney and Philip Pierre is. I'm happy to see them come together as leaders of this country to attack that menace that is confronting us in this country, that is putting us under. Let me make you understand this. I mean, it is not just our social fabric that is at risk, our economic survival, and our physical survival. You understand what I'm saying?
I agree.
That is a very serious matter. Now, I have not been a victim of crime to the extent of encountering anyone close to me being murdered, but I live with the fear of that possibility.